I think I had a close friend who played weddings, did the sort of vocals and guitar for weddings, and he kind of got me into it. I actually joined him on a few wedding gigs, and I also played for like a few friends and family weddings as well myself, and I just really loved it. And I just thought like actually the process of playing for a wedding, I really enjoyed. And also I got married myself as well back in early 2019, and again that whole process of like planning the music, planning all the live music for our wedding stuff, I really loved, and sort of seeing what that wedding sector was all about, really. And I just thought this actually feels like something I would like to do more of. So, yeah.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Airing, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teachers. Welcome back to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I am so glad that you are here listening. I have talked to many pianists who say they would like to play for more weddings. It seems like kind of a glamorous gig, getting to be part of someone's special day where everyone is dressed up and on their best behavior, hopefully. And there's music and food, beverages, dancing. I personally love playing for weddings, and so does my guest today. James Roscoe has made a career out of being a wedding pianist, and today I'm going to ask him all of my burning questions about what it's like to play for dozens of weddings every year. Here's a little about James. James Roscoe is a professional wedding pianist based in the Midlands, UK. He specializes in performing beautiful instrumental arrangements of classic and contemporary pop and rock tracks. If a venue doesn't have its own piano, James can also provide a complete live setup, including a stunning white baby grand piano shell. We're going to talk about that. This allows couples to enjoy the music they love, paired with elegant visuals that enhance the atmosphere of their special day. Here's my interview with James. Hi, James. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I just recorded the intro for this episode. And like I said in the intro, a lot of pianists tell me that they'd like to play more weddings, but they seem a little bit stuck on what to play and how to get gigs and all of this. So we're going to talk about all of those things today. But first of all, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So I'm James Roscoe. I am a wedding and events pianist. I'm based in the UK, just outside of Leicester in the UK. So I sort of tend to cover weddings and events across kind of the Midlands in England. And yeah, I've been playing piano for about 20 years or so. And about sort of 5-6 years ago, I decided that I wanted to have a go at focusing on weddings, playing piano for people's wedding days. And very pleased to sort of built it up over the years and now to be a full-time wedding pianist.
That's amazing. So you said weddings and gigs. Do you do other gigs as well?
Occasionally, but I would say like now because I've kind of made weddings my niche and my whole brand is really built around weddings, like 95% of what I do is a wedding. I occasionally do other types of event, restaurant gigs or Christmas events or Valentine's and that sort of thing. But yeah, vast majority is weddings, and there seems to be enough wedding work out there kind of make that my thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So is this your full-time job, or do you do something else when you're not playing weddings?
100% is my full-time job. Yeah. All of my income comes from live performance. So yeah, I did do it for a number of years alongside a day job. I used to work actually in the university sector for quite a number of years here in the UK. But about three and a half years ago, I decided that my wedding business had kind of built up so much that I was going to be able to make it work full time. So yeah, it's now my sole income, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I think it gives other pianists hope, even if they just want it as a side thing, that it is possible. So take us back. You said about 5 years. How did you get into this? How did you, what did that transition look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, before that point, I'd obviously I've been playing for quite a while, and I'd sort of had a reasonable amount of experience still playing live and playing in bands, playing in groups, all that sort of thing. And then I think I had a close friend who played weddings, did the sort of vocals and guitar for weddings, and he kind of got me into it. I actually joined him on a few wedding gigs, And I also played for like a few friends and family weddings as well myself, and I just really loved it. And I just thought like actually the process of playing for a wedding, I really enjoyed. And also I got married myself as well back in early 2019. And again, that whole process of like planning the music, planning all the live music for our wedding and stuff, I really love, and sort of seeing what that wedding sector was all about, really. And I just thought this actually feels like something I would like to do more of. So yeah.
Okay. So, and then you said it was a couple of years before you were able to make it full time. So what were you doing during that time to build up your business?
Yeah, so it was weird timing, kind of launching my wedding work in 2019 because obviously COVID hit the following year, and then pretty much every wedding that was due to take place in the UK, sort of 2020 through to sort of spring 2021, ended up being cancelled and postponed. So it took a while to kind of really get things going after sort of initially doing a few in 2019. But I sort of managed to use that time like as productively as I could. Like I shot a lot of videos that kind of showcased my playing. I set up my website. I set up all like my social media channels and all that kind of thing. And then managed to, start getting bookings coming in. Actually, quite a lot of bookings that came in by the time that kind of like obviously like lockdown restrictions were sort of lifted in 2021. That I was able to really kind of like, kind of go at it. And I kept my day job just to be safe for another kind of year or two after that. But yeah, it just gradually kept picking up more and more kind of thing. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I have a question. It's a little bit off topic, but not too far. Are you a play by ear person or a reading the notes person, or do you do both?
I'm actually somewhere in the middle.
Okay. You're one of the rare ones.
I know some people are like totally one or the other kind of thing, but I am somewhere in the middle. And I would describe myself as more like a kind of pop rock player rather than like describing myself as a classical pianist. So I guess I lean slightly more towards a bit of playing by ear and a bit of improvisation in what I play rather than just playing the dots on the page, certainly. But I still use dots on the page to play when I'm playing live, mainly because there is just so much material now that I have to play for weddings that I just quite like having the prompt in front of me. But my preferred way to play is rather than reading, dot for dot, as in classical style, is to kind of use sheet music more like a lead sheet with chords on. So as long as I've kind of got, say, if I'm covering a pop song, as long as I've kind of got the melody line there that's being, sung in the song, and I've got chords on top, I will generally sort of use that to kind of play around with the arrangement and sort of improvise kind of on the fly my own accompaniment, really. So yeah, there's a bit of playing by ear there, but there's also a bit of using sheet music as a prompt, definitely.
Okay. Do you think if a pianist is strongly one or the other, that they can still play for weddings, or does it take that combination?
Yeah, I think you can definitely approach it with either skill set, 100%. I think you might want to think about, if you're thinking about entering weddings, like what kind of stuff do you want to play, right? So if you are more sort of classically orientated, then maybe you make that your thing, and that actually, you're going to share how much great classical repertoire that you've got. Or if you mainly play by ear, maybe, perhaps you are going to lean more into like playing contemporary stuff or pop or jazz or whatever. And so, yeah, I think you could definitely approach it from either angle. I just find that, after having done it for quite a few years, I've just found a system that sort of works for me, really. And even if I find a score that hasn't got chords on top, I'll generally just go through it all and I'll work out what the actual underlying chords are in that sheet music and just notate it along the top by hand. And then that, I think, gives me a lot more flexibility to play with the arrangement and make it my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So let's get back to how people find you for weddings. What's the number one way now that people find you? And we'll talk about how you got there.
Yeah, good question. So I do try and monitor it quite closely, to be fair. So every time I get a new inquiry, I always ask on the bottom of my contact form how people discover me. So yeah, I do keep an eye on it each year and stuff and see where most of the work is coming from. For me, certainly a big one over the years has been Instagram. Certainly the following that I've got on Instagram, and there's a huge amount of wedding planning that goes on Instagram. Brides especially, loads of them on there that are using it to plan their weddings. So I've had a lot of work from there, and I am on some of the other social channels as well, YouTube, Facebook, starting to get more into TikTok, but I'm a little bit of way to go on that one. But yeah, Instagram is definitely my biggest in terms of social channels. but I get a reasonable number from other sources as well. So like coming through my website directly, so people might Google, and I've done quite a bit of work as well to kind of optimize my website and to hopefully be found by the right kind of people, people that are searching, wedding pianist, Leicestershire, etc., that kind of thing. I get increasingly over the years a lot coming through word of mouth and recommendations though, and I'm finding that in the last year that's probably going to become actually one of my biggest sources of work is actually being recommended directly by a lot of the time wedding venues, but also maybe other suppliers that work in the wedding sector or just people that I've played for in the past kind of thing. So I guess that sort of naturally comes from having done it for a number of years, right? That more people will have heard of you, encountered you, and then more likely that your name is going to come up in conversation and stuff. And then the other sort of source that is occasionally useful is playing at wedding shows, wedding fairs, that sort of thing. And also playing for sort of like when a venue has, say, like an open day where they're inviting couples to come and view the wedding venue, actually, and going along and if you've got a relationship with the venue, seeing whether you can go and play piano at that event, offering to go and sort of provide your services for free, effectively, to go and play for a few hours. But then you're being introduced to loads of new engaged couples that are able to come and listen to you and then hopefully consider you for their day. And that's in fact what I've just finished doing this weekend, was playing 2 days back to back, Saturday and Sunday, at a wedding venue I work with, and just being seen by lots of couples. So again, that's a really good way to get yourself out there and be seen by people. So yeah,
that's a really good idea that I never thought of. That's fantastic. So how many hours did you play over the weekend at this wedding venue?
So it was 3 hours each day. So yeah, that's quite typical for an open day. So like 3 to 4 hours would be quite standard. So yeah, so sort of actually probably similar to what I might play on a wedding day kind of thing. Yeah.
In the beginning, were you intentional about building relationships with these venues, or did it just kind of happen naturally as you got asked to play at different venues?
Yeah, a little bit intentional, I think, and because I think it's good to work out what are the which venues are near you for one thing. So I definitely spent quite a lot of time, online, sort of going and, for example, on Instagram, going and following other venues that were, say, within an hour or two of home. And sometimes reaching out to them, but also sort of, if I get a wedding booked there, just trying to foster a really good relationship with the people that work there. And again, I should probably caveat this as well. Obviously, this is like from the UK perspective, right? So I'm sure you've got listeners all over the world potentially, where the process of wedding planning and how suppliers interact with venues may vary potentially, but certainly in the UK, I think having a good direct personal relationship with a venue as a supplier is a really good way of going about it. And then hopefully you'll kind of, if there's a wedding coordinator that works at that venue and their couple are asking, oh, do you know anyone that could play for our wedding ceremony or could play piano for our reception or whatever, then hopefully you're going to kind of come to the mind of that wedding coordinator and they may pass on the details. So yeah.
Yes. I think that's worldwide, I'm sure there's little differences, but I think here in the States too, it sounds like it would all check out, building relationships. And
yeah, because you've got to remember that like those couples, they're going to trust, the recommendation that's come in from someone that is coordinating their wedding, right? That's a really powerful referral that you can get there. So yeah, definitely fostering relationships with venues. I think doing it in a way that isn't pushy. I don't like to sort of, badger venues and be sort of, I don't really sort of go around and asking, very directly, oh, can I be on your recommended list, et cetera, et cetera. I think I prefer to go about it in a more natural way and just like, trying to do the best job I can when I'm working a wedding at that venue, trying to be as helpful as I can, in terms of working well with the venue team and sort of, being polite and just generally trying to be a nice person to work with. I think that, speaks volumes really, and they will hopefully, remember that when it comes to sort of recommending suppliers for future weddings, definitely.
So I want to go back to something you said. You said that Instagram is one of your primary places for getting referrals, which I was really actually not expecting you to say. I thought you were going to say word of mouth and your website. So talk to me about how you use Instagram. And I know now it's probably more word of mouth, but in the beginning, how did you set up your Instagram and how did you use that as a tool to get more weddings?
Yeah, so I think the way that Instagram works is that when people sort of stumble across your profile, that grid of content that they see is really almost like a portfolio, right? It's almost like a CV from the perspective of a pianist. that's the first thing they're going to see. I think they're instantly going to make some kind of like judgments about, oh, is this person going to be someone that I'd be interested in having playing for me? So definitely having really, really strong content on that grid is key. And I think, obviously as a pianist, really using it as much as possible to showcase your playing, right? So I did a lot of like posting little short clips of me playing songs that I thought were going to go down well for weddings. They don't necessarily need to all be professionally shot or anything like that, but I think just taking a bit of care to make sure that you have framed them nicely and that the audio comes across well and all that sort of stuff is always good. And then obviously once I got going, like just sharing real content from weddings as much as I could. If possible, trying to get hold of nice sort of professional photographs that have been taken by the wedding photographers on the day is always fantastic. If you can kind of get a nice relationship going with the photographer that's working on the wedding. And then, hopefully most of the time they may well be happy to sort of share some photos with you, or the couple might be willing to share some photos with you once they get them back. And then that always looks great on your feed, obviously, if you've got some nice shots of you playing, in situ on a wedding day, and that's great. And and I just also use like my stories as well on Instagram to just share a little bit less, that's sort of more informal content, really, like just me talking to camera a little bit about what I'm up to, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. Maybe I'm setting up on a day for an event or something like that, or just showing little bits of other things that are happening around the wedding, right? I think it's all just interesting stuff for brides and grooms to kind of see, all that kind of content and behind the scenes content and stuff. So yeah, lots of different ways that you can kind of use it, but I've definitely found that it's been massive for me in terms of a platform for being found, and also a platform for networking as well, right? Because most wedding venues, most suppliers are on Instagram, and anyone who's successful in weddings is probably going to be quite active on there as well. So it's a really good site for networking, and making sure that if you're working on a wedding, making sure that you're tagging the other people that are involved in the wedding day, making sure that you're tagging the venue, tagging the other suppliers, and hopefully sharing each other's content is kind of helping everyone that's involved, right?
Okay, that makes sense. Do you find it tricky to get content or take videos when you're actually doing a gig? Because I do a lot of gigs and I never have any footage of them because I'm playing the gig. I'm not videoing myself, and I feel weird like setting up a camera. I don't know. Do you have any tips?
I'm actually quite similar to you in that respect, that I'm quite good at getting content shot at home when I've got kind of headspace to do it. And that's where most of my videos are shot, just kind of on my stage piano here. But yeah, I'm actually not great at getting live footage, because I'm the same. I'm like, my headspace is all about the live performance, right? And that's what I'm focusing on. And actually setting up a camera and sorting out sound and all that sort of stuff isn't really my top priority. But I feel like I should probably do more of it, to be honest, because I think that is, some of the content that I see out there on Instagram, etc., where people have filmed, real instances of, playing a bridal party down the aisle, etc., live. I mean, it's really, really great content, I think. So I think this year I'm going to try and do a little bit more of that, maybe get myself like a little tripod for my phone or something like that. But I think it's just about doing it in a way that's like fairly discreet, so it doesn't feel like you're like, I don't want to feel like I'm prioritizing my own self-promotion, right? I kind of want to prioritize the experience of the couple on the day. But having said that, I'm pretty sure the couple that, if you manage to get a nice video of you playing for a couple's wedding ceremony, I'm pretty sure the couple would be quite pleased to see that video, to be fair. It would be quite nice for them to sort of see it from that angle as well and have something, a little keepsake for them as well. So I'm trying to get a bit less less self-conscious about doing that, and hopefully trying to get a bit more kind of live footage out at weddings this year if I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know I'm not the only one, I guess.
Top Music Pro enables you to be a pro in your own studio, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you don't have to make up all the answers yourself. You have support.
I think of Top Music as the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. This site is the whole pot of gold, and there's gold pieces in there that I didn't even know existed.
I am actually teaching a full studio. They're coming online from miles away. So I am certainly thriving.
So what Tim has done is build a global community of piano teachers who are interested, who are engaged. And when you become part of this community, you feel empowered.
My life is different now because I'm not just in an isolated little studio. I have learnt that there are other people out there going through very similar learning curves and sharing these ideas.
I've really gained a lot of skill sets where my teaching is far more creative, far more innovative. I have resources so that I can add to it things that I didn't know.
My life and my business are different now because I have the three things that I really wanted: less stress, more money, and more time.
It's going to be fun. Like, I got excited about being a piano teacher. It's revolutionized everything that I do.
I think I've become a more thoughtful teacher, a more organized teacher. The quality of my teaching has deepened.
I feel like I can do this. I feel a sense of hope. I love the creativity it fosters and the openness to thinking outside the box, and it's energizing.
Joining Top Music really solidified that. Like, no, this is your career and you can make a career out of this. That has really helped me be proud of what I do.
It's made such a tremendous impact on the way I think about teaching. It keeps your mind open when you have so many ideas.
My best win from being on Top Music Pro is just having a lot more peace of mind as a teacher and as a business owner. It just gives me that less amount of hours that I have to do with research and everything.
It's a really good place to spend a few pounds, a few bucks a month. What you get from it far outweighs what you have to pay into it.
My biggest win with Top Music Pro was increased student retention and increased income. I have a lot more confidence in how I'm teaching, and I have the resources that I need when I do have questions.
I probably went from about 35 students to maybe like 65. I ended up doing 3 classes and I had a waiting list.
If I hadn't signed up with Top Music Pro, I probably wouldn't have realized that teaching piano is a real job and you can build your whole career around it.
All right, let's talk about your setup when you go to weddings, because I've seen the pictures of your white baby grand. Tell us what, if you take your own gear and what you take.
Yeah, so I take a lot of gear with me, to be fair. I mean, unless, of course, the venue have a piano on site, which is brilliant. If they've got a piano that's tuned on site, then happy days, right? You can.
How often do they? How often does it happen?
I suppose it's maybe, yeah, I suppose I get booked disproportionately for venues that do have a piano on site, to be fair, because I think when there is a piano on site at a venue, a lot of engaged couples go, oh, it'd be nice to kind of book someone to play that. But having said that, I would still say the majority of wedding venues I play do not have a piano on site. Perhaps more of the kind of like older traditional venues, like your sort of country houses and stately homes, etc., they're more likely to have a piano on site. But if you're playing like maybe like a nice barn conversion or something like that, not very often that you're going to have a piano on site. So you're usually going to be bringing your own. And so yeah, as you mentioned, Rachel, I have like a sort of, basically I bring an electric stage piano with me, fully weighted 88 key stage piano. But I also have what's called a piano shell, like a baby grand piano shell, which is effectively like a sort of this kind of shell unit that you put the stage piano inside, and it looks kind of just like a little mini baby grand just sat in the corner. So I think, when I kind of saw them, I use a company that's called Dutch Grand based in the Netherlands, that I sort of acquired mine from. And yeah, really nice bit of kit that you can just put your stage piano in. And I just think aesthetically, it looks so much nicer than just having what is otherwise kind of just a keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, weddings are all about aesthetics, right? So you got to play the game.
Yeah, and I just thought getting it in white as well. I kind of like deliberated for ages about whether to get it in just like classic black or whether to get it in white, but decided to get it in white and to get a matching white stage piano to play live with as well. I think that actually works really nicely for most wedding setups because, most of the decor has got like white accents and stuff. And it just, if you're going to make that your niche, you want weddings to be your niche, I thought I'm going to lean into that and go for, the white baby grand shell. And yeah, it looks really nice. And again, people can do things with it, like if they've got like a stylist or a florist, they can even like decorate it and put flowers and candles around it and all that sort of stuff, and it just looks really, really nice. So I think aesthetics do matter, and I've had a lot of couples telling me like, oh, they really like the look of the baby grand shell and stuff. So yeah, it's big. That's the only thing. You need quite a big car or a van. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Does it fold up at all?
Yeah, so basically the legs fold down on it, but the rest of it is all kind of one unit. And then obviously you're taking the stage piano out of it and stuff. And then in addition to that, I actually always take two stage pianos with me just to be safe. I just think with a wedding, I want to have a backup piano with me. And I think this is one of the reasons, to be honest, why I think, as a wedding musician, you can command a bit more of a premium, because I think the stakes are just that little bit more higher for a wedding. And I think, really it should be expected if you're going to play weddings that you do have kind of backup plans in place and that sort of stuff, spares of everything. So I do take along two stage pianos with me. And I also take a little PA speaker system with me, and I have two of those as well, just in case anything happened to that, as well as spare cables and spare sustain pedals, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think that's mainly what I take with me if I'm thinking about all the gear that goes in the car, extension leads, all that sort of thing. And then I just take my iPad with me as well to read my music off. And I even take a spare of that as well. So I have duplicates of literally everything.
Wow. And have you ever had to use the duplicates?
Yes. Yes, I have. And in fact, if you want a wedding horror story, I think one of the most kind of like stressful moments that I ever had playing for a wedding where I did need a spare was I was playing outside for an outdoor wedding ceremony in the height of summer in July. Beautiful outdoor ceremony, but it was absolutely scorching. We were going through a heat wave here in the UK, and it was like full sun and stuff. And of course, with your iPad, if they get too hot, they shut down. Can't use them, and you have to go and like put them aside to cool down somewhere. And no joke, like it was the moment at which the registrars were just asking the guests to be upstanding for the arrival of the bride, and I had to obviously play this piece down. It was that moment that my iPad shut down because it just had overheated from having been sort of playing for the sort of half hour before and stuff. But thankfully, I always keep my spare iPad right next to me at the piano. So like within about 10 seconds, I was able to just put it on my music rest and get the song up that I needed and keep playing. And that was like, and before that point, I'd had this spare next to me for probably hundreds of weddings and never needed it. And then it really kind of like reaffirmed that like, yeah, actually having that spare with you and just having those contingency plans is really worth it, because that was a super stressful moment. But actually, I think I kind of got away with it, and I don't think anyone noticed. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The iPad, I don't exclusively play from my iPad because it freaks me out just a little bit. I'll use it for gigs and stuff. And like for weddings, it makes it so much easier to have your playlist and just, rather than photocopies or whatever. And especially outside with the wind and stuff. But I don't know. The iPad still freaks me out a little bit.
I think pros and cons. Generally speaking, I have found it really reliable, and I that story probably sounds a bit scary, but like that is just like a one in 100 chance that was going to happen. Like generally speaking, most of the time it has been really reliable. And if you think about like the other option is taking paper sheet music and books and stuff, I just don't want to go back to doing that now.
No, especially when you can have your whole library on your iPad and then just I don't know what your process is, but I would just make a set list for a specific wedding and put in the...
Absolutely. Yeah. Which app do you use out of interest for like...
I use Fourscore.
Yeah, same. Brilliant. I wouldn't go anywhere else. I just think it's great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So as you know, you can create set lists on there. So I have a set list for every wedding that I play, but also it's really useful just, I've probably got about 1,000 or more scores on there now. So it's really useful for being able to search for stuff. You can tag up sheet music by obviously like artist and genre, or you can do any of your own custom tags if you want. I think I tag up like the decade of the song and stuff as well, which is quite useful. So it's just so much like, you can very quickly put together a set list on the fly. And also, of course, when you're playing with an iPad, if you've got an internet connection, you could also potentially go and find sheet music like in a live environment, right? If someone comes up to you with a song request, if I've got an internet connection and I can search online and try and find a lead sheet for something, then hopefully I can have a crack at playing it on the fly, which is always kind of looks quite impressive when you manage to do that. people do enjoy it if you could do that. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you play a lot of receptions or is it mostly ceremonies?
Yeah, so the main parts that I focus on playing are more like the daytime part of the wedding. So you probably have a similar structure, I guess, in the US, but generally speaking in the UK, You start with the sort of ceremony, usually maybe like mid-afternoon around lunchtime kind of thing, and then flow into like a drinks reception afterwards, which might be like about 90 minutes to sort of 2 hours maximum kind of thing. And then generally you would sit down for like your wedding breakfast, which would be your main meal of the day, usually a seated sort of 3-course meal, which would typically be like a couple hours. So those parts of the day are the bits that I focus on playing. Certainly the ceremony is the most popular bit that I play for. Most people that do book me have me for the ceremony. But yeah, it's quite popular for people to add on having like either the drink reception or the meal, or maybe even both as well, which is a lot of playing. but then you're kind of there for the whole daytime up till maybe about like sort of 7 o'clock in the evening, maybe kind of time. At which point, usually people then switch over to having, maybe a band or, a DJ or something. Yeah.
Okay. And can I ask how kind of your pay structure? I should have asked you maybe ahead of time how much you are comfortable sharing. You don't have to share specific numbers, but I assume that the more time, it's more money. Is it per hour or is it for the event? How do you figure out the rate?
I mean, people have all sorts of different approaches in the way that they charge, to be fair. Like, some people just do it very much strictly on like a per hour basis. I've kind of gone for like, I charge by the number of different sections of the day that people book me for. So like typically broken down into like a ceremony, a drink reception and a meal. And like I charge based on the number of those different sections that they book me for, because I feel that like as a wedding musician, that makes a little bit more sense than just charging by the hour, because you've kind of got to imagine the flow of the wedding day, whereby usually like people change rooms between those sections. They might go from like a bar area through to like the wedding breakfast area and stuff. And, particularly with all your gear, if you need to like move it between rooms or you need to pack down or set up and that kind of thing, it makes sense to me to align my packages with those different sections of the day, rather than to be like booked for an hour, but then suddenly like the meal's not finished and it's like, well, what do I do now? So I kind of base it around those sections of the day. And I basically offer like, I advertise my prices publicly online anyway, so people can go and like find my website and see how much I charge basically. But I charge better value than more of those parts that people book. So I think there's like, you kind of want like a minimum amount that you're willing to go out for. So, you've got to consider as well that a lot of weddings take place on a Saturday, and you've only got so many Saturdays, particularly in summer, that you're going to be able to offer. So you do really want to charge like a minimum level of fee that you're comfortable with, because obviously it's quite difficult to really take more than one wedding in a day. It's not something I really do. So there's definitely a minimum there. And then I try and, encourage people, if they want to kind of have me for a little bit longer, or, add on the drinks reception. That's only going to be like another sort of 50% more maybe of what you've already just paid for like one part of the day. So yeah, better value the longer they book. And I think that makes sense. And I think that's probably what most people would do, I would have thought. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you ever do more than one in a weekend?
Yes. Yeah, particularly in peak season. I'm quite often playing like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like in the really busy months of like July and August in particular. I could and weekday weddings seem to be becoming more popular as well, I think. So, I can do as many as 4, 5, even 6 weddings a week sometimes. When I'm
that's
it's a lot. It's a lot. But then you've got to remember the flip side of that is that it is much quieter in the winter months. So currently January, February, not many weddings. So you do get a little bit of downtime outside of peak season. But yeah, it's very, very busy in summer, certainly.
Have you had any particularly crazy requests, not from like people requesting a song, but like brides or wedding planners or anyone making crazy requests?
So songs or just anything?
No, just like anything. Like I'll give you an example while you're thinking. So for me, this was out of my comfort zone. The last wedding I played at a church, we were playing a praise song with a singer, and we had a very short rehearsal time because I had another event that I was coming from. So we only had like very short, and we also had to practice a string trio thing. So it was a little bit stressful to begin with. And then the singer was like, oh, can we change the key? And I think we'll do the verse and then the chorus and then the bridge and then maybe the bridge again. But if I'm not feeling like it, maybe we'll go back and do another chorus. And just like, I think my eyes just got bigger and bigger. Like, I don't have time to wrap my head around it, because I'm a note person. Like I need it written out. I need to know what. So just like, I don't know. Have you had Anything crazy come up?
Yeah, I think with that sort of stuff, I think it's just about trying to set those expectations right. So, like, I'm sometimes asked to collaborate with people as well, and sometimes that can be put on you fairly last minute. Like, oh, we've got a guest that would like to sing a few songs with you, or whatever it might be. And I'm always like really happy to like try and accommodate that if I can. But it's just sort of setting that expectation that like, okay, well, I'm going to need a little bit of notice so that I can discuss with them before the day what key we're going to play it in, what the structure of the song is going to be, all that sort of stuff. And I usually try and, when we're doing things like that, I usually try and get it a bit earlier and see if I can sort of have a rehearsal with them on the morning to run whatever songs we're going to do, kind of thing. But yeah, I think generally speaking, if you set those expectations, people are pretty reasonable. Same with learning songs as well. I have had some people trying to push it like a lot and ask for me to learn a lot of new complicated stuff at quite short notice. And you kind of just, you kind of want to please people, you want to say yes and all that sort of stuff, but just sometimes it isn't realistic to do that. So I think you do have to sort of ideally set those expectations up front. How much are you willing to learn for people? How much notice, if they're going to ask you to learn a song, do you really need? And sort of trying to stick to your guns where you can on that, because you want to do their wedding day justice. So you don't want to be sort of like manically trying to put something together the day before the wedding and not getting enough rehearsal time in and doing it justice and stuff. But yeah, trying to set out those expectations, ideally in a contract or in written communication. I think when they book it is ideal for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Too many I find brides and grooms I work with are like they're all lovely. They honestly like I get on really well with the people that I play for, and yeah, I don't really have, thankfully. Sort of like I don't really have like that many horror stories of like working with people that have been like difficult and stuff. So yeah,
and a lot of brides I've played for, they're like, just play whatever you want, make it sound good. They're not that particular, and then every once in a while you get one who has some opinions. But...
oh yeah, you get the full range, right? You get some people that are so hands off, almost a bit too hands off, and you kind of just want a little bit of a steer from them sometimes. You need
right,
a bit more information from them about what they want from the day. And then some people that are very, very, very particular about exactly what they want you to play and the arrangements you want to play. And then a lot of people that are just somewhere in the middle.
Well, we're getting close to the end here, but I do want to ask you, for a pianist who is new to playing weddings, what's your advice for them as far as it could be repertoire or getting more gigs, wherever you want to take the question? What advice would you give?
Yeah, so I think starting to get a repertoire together is a really good kind of way to start. So thinking about, what songs are going to be often requested at weddings. And definitely there's loads of inspiration out there. You find loads of blogs out there, follow relevant people in the sector on social media, etc. Get together a little repertoire, get together some obviously some nice videos of you playing some of the songs that are most requested. Obviously, you may decide that you want to specialize in a particular area. Like you might want to specialize in classical, jazz, rock covers, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to specialize in doing film music on the piano, and I think there's a lot of strengths in having like a niche like that. But yeah, having an idea of a repertoire and sort of presenting something to a wedding couple that gives them a sense of what you might be able to play for them is great. And then, just trying to get yourself out there as much as possible. And like I sort of said earlier, just sort of playing like a few, if you've got any friends and family that are getting married anytime soon, that is always a great way to start, I think. Like playing for someone that that are kind of happy to give you a shot, if you just sort of play for a few hours. And then that gives you some great content that you can talk about, right? Hopefully some nice photos, or if you can get some video, hopefully they can give you a nice review as well. That you can sort of share as like start building up some testimonials and stuff. That's always a brilliant way to start, and just getting yourself out there and being seen, and then taking it the next steps, maybe going out and seeing whether you can get involved in any sort of wedding fairs or wedding showcases and that sort of thing to be seen by people you don't know who might like what you do and want to consider booking you. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. James, what are you looking forward to in 2026?
Oh, good question. Lots. It's going to be a busy year this year. So there's lots going on this year. One thing that I am really looking forward to this year is I'm doing a lot more collaboration this year with other musicians. So I have a little piano and saxophone duo with a wedding saxophonist that we sort of set up last year, and that's going to be really taking off this year. We've got a lot of bookings coming up this summer with that. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also working with a few vocalists as well in duo setups this year. So Yeah, collaboration, really looking forward to. And I'm also hoping to start getting a little bit back into doing some band work as well, playing keyboards for bands and stuff as well. It's something I haven't done for a few years because I've been so focused on doing my sort of solo piano work. But yeah, I do kind of miss playing with other people and playing in groups and bands and stuff. So that's something I want to build a bit more. So yeah, I think collaboration with other musicians is kind of my main theme for 2026, something I want to do more of, definitely.
Nice. Well, James, thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories with us. I learned a lot, and I think people are really going to enjoy hearing all your stories about being a wedding pianist. So thank you. If people want to learn more about you, maybe get inspired by your Instagram or something, where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So if you just search me online, if you search James Roscoe piano or wedding pianist, I'll probably come up on most platforms. My website is jamesroscoe.co.uk. That's Roscoe with an E on the end. And my social media handles on Instagram, etc., are James Roscoe Piano.
Thank you so much for being here, James.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really lovely to chat.
I hope you enjoyed hearing about James's experiences as a wedding pianist. One of the things that he suggested that I had never thought about is playing for wedding events such as preview days at a wedding venue or even renting a booth as a vendor at a wedding show. Now, maybe those aren't the first things you're going to do if you've never played weddings before, but it just shows that if this is something you're interested in, you don't have to sit back and wait for someone to contact you. There are things you can be doing to be proactive in getting wedding gigs. I actually love helping pianists who want to play more gigs. So if that happens to be you, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at Rachel Ehring and tell me what kinds of gigs you would like to play, and I'll see if I can give you any advice. I would love to hear from you. All right, that's the end of the show for this week. But next week on the podcast, I will be sharing reflections on my first 99 episodes of the Top Music Piano podcast. I think it's going to be fun. So make sure you tune in. And then for episode 100, I have a very special guest planned that I'm really excited about. All right, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano podcast. I'll speak with you very soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.